The distress beacon had been silent for 3 years. When Commander Alara Chen's scout ship finally traced it to the frozen moon of Arcturus Prime, she expected wreckage, bodies frozen in time. Another tragedy catalogued in humanity's long march through the stars. What she found instead was a child. The research outpost had been overrun during the Kashari invasion, every structure reduced to skeletal remains jutting from the ice like broken teeth. Ilara moved through the ruins alone, her breath forming clouds in the thin atmosphere, her scanner painting thermal signatures across her visor. Empty, empty, empty. Then something. A heat signature. Small. Impossibly alive. She found the girl in what remained of the medical bay, huddled behind a makeshift barricade of twisted metal and frozen supply crates. 8 years old, perhaps 9, wild-eyed and feral, clutching a plasma cutter like a sword. The child didn't speak, didn't cry, just stared with eyes that had seen too much, survived too long. 3 years. 3 years alone on a dead moon, where the temperature never rose above -40. 3 years scavenging frozen rations and recycling her own wastewater. 3 years of darkness broken only by the aurora storms that painted the sky in shades of violet and green. Ilara knelt slowly, her hands raised, speaking soft words that seemed to dissolve in the cold. The girl didn't lower the plasma cutter. Behind her, scratched into the metal wall in desperate childish letters, was a single word repeated over and over. Mama, 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 Mama! The extraction took hours. Trust, Ilara learned, was something you couldn't rush. She showed the girl her ship's rations, shared her water, told her stories of Earth, of oceans and forests and cities that touched the clouds. Slowly, incrementally, the plasma cutter lowered. Slowly, the girl's rigid shoulders began to shake. When she finally collapsed into Ilara's arms, she made no sound. She had forgotten how to cry. They called her Luna, the only name that seemed to fit a child born under alien stars. The medical team on the carrier Indomitable ran their tests, asked their careful questions, documented the impossible. How had she survived? The outpost's life support had failed within days of the attack. The food stores should have lasted 6 months at most. The recyclers needed maintenance, replacement parts, expertise, but humanity doesn't ask permission to survive. We don't wait for optimal conditions. We adapt, we endure, we become something new. Luna had taught herself to read by parsing technical manuals in the frozen computers, had learned to repair the recyclers by trial, error, and stubborn refusal to die, had discovered that certain ice formations contained trapped oxygen, that the aurora storms generated electromagnetic pulses that could restart dead batteries, that her own fear could be transmuted into fuel. Ilara kept Luna close during those first weeks aboard the Indomitable. The child rarely spoke, moving through the corridors like a ghost, flinching at sudden sounds, hoarding food in her quarters even though the mess hall served 3 meals daily. At night she would wake screaming, though no sound escaped her lips. Then came the day everything changed. The Indomitable was patrolling the outer rim when they encountered a Kashari supply convoy. The same species that had destroyed Luna's home. The same species that had left a child to die alone in the dark. Battle stations sounded. Marines rushed to their positions. And Luna stood at the observation deck, her small hands pressed against the reinforced glass, watching the Kashari ships grow larger on approach. Ilara found her there, started to pull her away to safety, then froze. The child wasn't trembling, wasn't crying. Her jaw was set, her eyes blazing with something ancient and terrible. Then she opened her mouth and roared. It started low, almost subsonic, a vibration that rattled in the chest. Then it built, rising, swelling, becoming something primal and furious and utterly inhuman. A sound that spoke of 3 years alone in the dark. A sound that said, I survived you. A sound that said, I am still here. The bridge crew turned, shocked. Ilara stepped back, her hand instinctively moving to her sidearm. This wasn't the quiet, broken child they'd rescued. This was something new, something forged. The roar ended. Luna's chest heaved. She looked up at Alara with eyes that suddenly seemed far older than 9, and she whispered her first full sentence in weeks. I was practicing. The battle lasted 17 minutes. The Indomitable tore through the Kashari convoy with surgical precision, each shot a statement, each maneuver a declaration. Luna watched it all from the observation deck, her small silhouette backlit by plasma fire and exploding hulls. Later, much later, when the shooting had stopped and the debris field drifted silent, Ilara sat beside her. Practicing for what? She asked softly. Luna didn't look away from the stars, didn't blink. Her voice, when it came, was steady and cold and absolutely certain. For when I'm big enough to roar back. They say humanity's greatest strength is our compassion, our innovation, our refusal to surrender. But we forget the other truth. We forget what happens to human children who are left alone in the dark. We forget that cubs grow teeth. We forget that the fiercest predators are the ones who learn to hunt while still learning to walk. The galaxy thought it had broken us, thought 3 years of isolation would destroy a human child. They didn't understand that they were giving us time. Time to adapt. Time to evolve. Time to practice. Luna turned from the viewport, and Ilara saw humanity's future reflected in those ancient feral eyes. Saw a generation that would be born not in comfort, but in fire. Children who would learn to roar before they learned to speak. A species that would transform its trauma into teeth. Across the ship, across the fleet, across 100 human colonies scattered among the stars. Children were watching, learning, growing, practicing their roars in the dark. And one day soon, the galaxy would hear them all at once.